Hello, my name is Steve Lane. I'm a rock and roll musician, and I am surrounded by vinyl records because I'm a rock and roll vinyl junkie. Today's episode of RAWK TAWK is featuring Mark Anthony, a musician in the Pennsylvania area. I've been a big fan of his work for years now, and it was an honor to finally interview him, meet him like this, and ask him who his 5 favorite musical acts are of all time coming up.
Made in the USA.
Hello, it is time for us to talk to Mark Anthony.
Hello, everybody.
He does not have any friends behind him, but it's usually Mark Anthony and friends.
Yeah, but the friends are the people who follow me. So,
There you go.
as far none of my real friends want to be tied in with that name, friends.
Well, you've been playing in the Pennsylvania area for how many years now?
Oh God, I don't want to put that out there. Over 40.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Over 40. I started at a very young age.
Yeah, there's images of you in high school rocking out. That's really cool.
Yeah, and what was in then versus what's in now is like two different worlds.
Right. So you've been playing around for God knows how long, and then you got an EP coming out. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I guess it's been the last couple years I switched over to doing a solo acoustic thing. I
Nice.
tired of the whole band thing. It was been a nightmare. I stayed out of the Pittsburgh music scene playing for a handful of years, and I started, during COVID playing acoustic, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it took off. So I'm out here doing that. I have more followers outside of my own region than I do
Nice.
actually Pittsburgh. But yeah, my EP, Mark Anthony EMI Sessions, is coming out on, let me see it. I think it's considered April 18th. It's on a Friday going into Easter. I believe
Nice.
that's April 18th at 12:01 a.m. Eastern time. I don't think we're going to have, I was hoping to have a video out about a week before that, and I don't even know if it's going to get done
Oh, okay.
even for the release. Yeah, most people nowadays, they want to see a video.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's the video age for sure. That's why we're filming this, man. But so you're primarily, I feel like you're like in a country rock kind of groove, but
Yeah,
Man,
I mean, I
you
switched
hit all
over.
bases though.
What was that?
I said I feel like you hit all the bases though. All types of music, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I really hit into one specific genre now, especially doing acoustic. I'm like on that borderline of country rock, southern rock, probably easy listening to some people. I mean, it's completely different. I have to send you some things that I've done in the past when I'm singing and I'm screaming more in the lines of like Chris Cornell or
Right.
Lane Staley or somebody like that.
Right.
It's definitely completely different than what I've done all my life. My mother keeps telling me that.
Nice. So EMI sessions, did you get to record at a EMI studio?
There's a long story behind that, sort of, but I'm still using the name.
Nice.
It's a piece of it. I mean, it's a long story, and wasn't that long ago. And it took me some. This was actually supposed to be out months ago, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through because of the name. But the name also creates attention to it too.
Right.
So I had, there's a lot of things that I had to do to get that,
Right.
to verify this and that and everything to get it
Yeah.
done. But it was never mastered at EMI. Some of it was done there, but there's somebody who worked on my first EP, a solo acoustic EP that is, Chip Dominic with Before and After Music Group. He's the one who actually did the mixing and the mastering. In the mastering of it for me. He took the
Nice.
raw stuff and, turned it into something that's actually hopefully worth listening to.
Right. That's awesome, man. Well, I can't wait to hear it, man. I cannot wait. It's going to be cool. Looking forward to it. All right. Are you ready for the moment?
I am.
Moment of truth, man. Let's hear it. Let's hear your top 5 favorite musical acts of all time.
Okay. 4 were fairly easy. The 5th one is the trouble, because I'm like everybody else now. I don't really listen to a whole lot of albums anymore. I pay and stream music just like everybody else. I'm a musician. I mean, I
Yeah.
get my stuff out CDs. You want it at a gig, I give
Right.
it to you for free. If you want
Right.
to throw $1 in a bucket or something because you feel like it,
Right.
please do. But I mean, to me, when I think out of my whole life, even to this day, number one, nothing even comes close to it is the Van Halen, David Lee Roth era. I mean, I
Nice.
swear I just, I started playing guitar, at that time. the David Lee Roth coolness and everything, the flash and everything, like molded me. Even though I'd never really tried to imitate Eddie Van Halen, but he was the guy who motivated me to screw up my Kramer pacer and try to do other things with it. And I think even a couple of the photos you were talking about I put out on social media recently, it was a Washburn guitar that I end up has all the Eddie Van Halen stripes. And I think what happened is my mom or my grandfather took me to some auto supply place, I can't remember what it was back then, and I bought the pinstriping
Nice.
different sizes, and I did that. So I mean, that is just, even to this day, I still listen to that when I hear that old Eddie Van Halen guitar sound, especially from the first two albums, especially Van Halen 1. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it's that's my favorite stuff. I mean, did I like the second evolution of David Lee Roth with Van Halen and David Lee Roth? No, I don't. The whole thing, unfortunately, the fighting and everything kind of soured me. Even with a lot of the classic stuff, it soured me some. But I still hear, I'm driving in my car and I hear here in Pittsburgh, there's a rock station always plays during the day, You're No Good, off of Van Halen 2.
Yeah.
That bass sound with the flange or whatever that he had on it, Michael Anthony at the beginning, and it's starting to kick in. It's just like, yeah, I know my ears are shot, but oh well.
Right. That's awesome.
I gotta crank it up. That's my all-time favorite music.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, it just is.
So out of their, what was it, 6 albums? Out of their 6 albums, what's your favorite with David Lee Roth?
Oh, the first one.
The first
One still gives me chills when I listen to it. Just hear it with that old Echoplex with
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen, just that sound. The only thing I still get a kick out of to this day is that they let Eddie Van Halen during a song go off into the solo, and then they re-record, so they dubbed in the rhythm track on a couple of them songs. And you remember as a kid, I would listen to that with headphones on, the old big headphones, and I'm up in my bedroom, and I had this stereo console thing that had those flashing lights. You remember that in a prison, those flashing lights that would be on, and I'd have that on.
Analyzer.
Yeah, and I would daydream of either being Eddie Van Halen or being David Lee Roth. And my mom would come upstairs and put something in my room, like it threw everything off. Like, I got to start this song again after she leaves. Like, I just, there are a lot of albums like that I would just listen to, and even to this day, I still imagine myself performing whoever I'm listening to.
Right.
Like if I'm on stage doing it with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're a big part of my youth, too. I had a huge Van Halen poster, like the 82 era, you know what I mean? So it must have been like the Fair Warning tour, but it came out in 82, like around when Diver Down came out. But it was a huge poster. That was like my thing, was Van Halen for so many years.
That was my first real concert, was going to that tour.
Nice.
I was in high school, and it just blew me away. I was never at it was playing at a place here. It's not in Pittsburgh anymore, called the Civic Arena, and it was filled. I mean, it's like 18,000, seats there, and it was. I can't remember if it was sold out or not.
Look what wifey's handing me. Do you know what these are?
I'm assuming they're Alex Van Halen's drumsticks.
You're correct. Alex handed these to her when she was, Graham's age, about 10?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, she was pretty young, but he goes, "Here, little girl, you want these?" Backstage, she's like, "Okay."
1984.
Yeah, 1984 tour.
Yeah, that was a cool time to go to a concert back then, because, I mean, I don't know who you have, Steve, who listens to this, but back then, I mean, I was like, going into my sophomore year in high school, and everybody, when you'd go to a concert, everybody was drinking with everybody, at least in the parking lot and stuff.
Right.
Walk by, start talking to people, and somebody would have a bottle in the cooler of what was it? Trying to think of it. That show, it was Southern Comfort.
Right.
I never had it before. Take a sip of it. Oh yeah, and it was a great experience. And I remember back, at least here in Pittsburgh, during those concerts at an arena like that, people would be smoking pot, and the people who worked there didn't care. They would just walk past you. There was no restrictions whatsoever at that time until maybe, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years later, because people would be smoking cigarettes too in there, so everything was all smoked up back then. But there are people smoking pot. Unless you were doing something crazy, they just looked at you and and walk past, and all of a sudden you'd be sitting at a show, and you don't, somehow a joint's coming over to you, and you don't even know who it came from. It was somebody, 12 seats down. Somebody just passed one out, and it probably would never make it back to them for the second half. But somebody else 10 seats down, here they are bringing it. But yeah, it was a different time for
Oh, yeah.
concerts. But unless you were doing something stupid, if you were, just being cool about stuff, they didn't care.
Yeah.
The police didn't care down there either. It was in the city of Pittsburgh, and they just didn't care unless you were doing something stupid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those were good days of concerts, but I still think of that. Steve, the crazy thing that I remember about that Eddie Van Halen, I don't know how they had it set up on his one, so he would keep running back into these wall speakers. They had big towers of Marshall stacks, and it would start rocking like
Oh,
this.
wow.
And then it would slow down, and then he'd start running up, and it had plowed into it again, and they had you're waiting for it to all come falling down, and at that time I think I was 14 years old. It was 14. I don't think I was 15 yet. 14. It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
It was just wow, hearing the songs that I bought on albums and 8-track, and
Here it is.
it was definitely the greatest. And I remember the one thing I remember about Van Halen 1, if you had the 8-track, Little Dreamer, I think was on track 3, and it would fade out and then come in on
Like,
track.
and then come back, fade back in.
That was
Good
terrible.
old 8-track. Oh, man. Yeah, that happened a lot. I don't miss 8-tracks for that reason.
Yeah, I never got into them. I mean, they were hip and I had one, but I mean, they were portable,
Yeah.
sort of.
Right.
But yeah, there was nothing worse. There was a few albums like that they would just fade out. I
Oh,
can't understand why they couldn't come out and do. There'll always be something you wanted to. I mean, Little Dreamer is such a great song. Why do you want to do that to
Terrible.
that one?
I had no choice. Okay, so that was number 1. What's your number 2?
Well, this is going to be completely different. Hall & Oates.
Nice. Very cool.
Even when I had to, you saw high school pictures. My hair got longer and I bleached it and all that stuff and had it out to here. Even then, I always liked Hall & Oates. There was something about him. I always thought Daryl Hall was always looked cool. He had the cool hair, and women liked it, and if you're alone with a girl that you like, playing some Hall & Oates was always
Yeah.
a cool thing. Plus, I liked the music and the vocals. I mean, John Oates is really talented.
Oh, yeah.
Daryl Hall, his songwriting at that time. I mean, everything from back at Rich Girl all the way up into the whole '80s things where it started getting a little cheesy. I still love it.
Yeah.
I've seen him probably 7, 8 times over
Oh, that's
the years,
great.
and it's always been a good show. We're never going to see another one, I'm sure,
No.
but which is
Not now.
a shame. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's such
Big
great
fan.
songs and vocals, great singing.
Hey, Philadelphia, that makes sense. That was my 3rd concert, and the first concert I actually drove to was Big Band Boom.
Okay.
Corey Hart opened up. Man, poor dude was just terrible. He had that one song at the time I wear my sunglasses at night. Oh,
I
my.
played that out of high school in a Marriott circuit band. I had to play that. I had to play that song 5, 6 nights a week for a while.
Yeah, that was the song for a while.
I didn't like it. I really didn't like it, but it was a big hit. I don't think he ever had another one after that.
He did, but it wasn't that big.
Was it? I don't remember.
He had a couple other songs, but nothing like that one. But yeah, Hall & Oates is fantastic. I've got, so much of their music and big part of my childhood, big influence songwriting and vocally and everything. I love Daryl's House,
Yeah, I love.
those
I've
sessions.
seen all those too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool, man. Son, my favorite indie band, a little over a year ago, I took a train to San Francisco, which is a long story. I almost died. But while I was there, these guys are really cool. They do kind of like modern yacht rock, very smooth, but they're an awesome band, or duo really. But I bought him a Hall & Oates sticker and I gave it to him after the show. Like, oh, Hall & Oates our favorite, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's definitely a big influence. Awesome music. Love Hall & Oates. All right, numero tres.
Okay, this was an easy one too. Alice in Chains.
Wow, cool, man.
I'm a big Alice in Chains fan, especially the Lane Staley era.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still putting out good music, but there's just something that isn't quite there for me. I mean, it is good. I think they've done it in a good way where it still sounds like Alice in Chains. And I don't even know the name of the guy who's singing in it, but
Right.
he sounds a little bit like him, but he's not trying to imitate him. But man,
Exactly.
Alice in Chains, that's, when I started getting out of the hair thing and I was playing sort of that type of music, Alice in Chains. I still do. I love listening to it. It's great vocals too. I mean,
Yeah.
those two-part harmonies are just fantastic. But I love Alice in Chains, though. I mean, it's some of my favorite music.
Oh, that's great. So out of all their albums with Lane, what's your favorite one?
Dirt.
Yeah, that's probably the go-to album, really. I remember about that the day it came out. It was really good.
See, I was against all that. I held out for a while when the hair band stuff changed.
Yeah.
And then I refused to really get into it. And then a friend of mine started playing all the time. And inside my head, I'm fighting. I'm like, yeah, but this is pretty freaking good.
Really good.
Things are changing, between them. And I like a lot of those bands. They're not my favorite. I'm a big Stone Temple Pilots fan. Soundgarden, I'm a big Chris Cornell fan. One of my favorite all-time vocalists. But
Nice.
Alice in Chains to me in my opinion, is the best out of it. It sort of still had a little bit of that traditional hard rock edge with the little grunge and that nice heavy meaty guitar sound, and I like the non-shredder guitar solos that are, it could be intricate and he could play fast and everything like that, but it still has that sort of rock core to it.
Right.
Big fan.
Yeah, that was a big turning point for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I mean they did such a damn good job of it. How can I not get on board?
Right. So like when Warrant went into the Columbia offices when their album came out, Cherry Pie, and that the whole lobby was all cherry pie, big posters and everything, then a couple years later they came in to talk about something and everything was Alice in Chains. And they're just like, oh man, the times are changing.
There's a good friend of mine who won't admit that he really liked that song. And he thought that was the new era of hair bands was going to be that Cherry Pie, and I couldn't stand. I'm like, okay, this is over. And then even I think that at that time, I can't remember the name of the album from Winger, and it was pretty. There are some good songs, but there is some really super cheesy stuff on it. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Maybe it's getting a little too ridiculous.
Right.
But I wasn't ready for it to go to that far. I was hoping it was going to go back maybe closer to, the early 80s kind of hard rock where, it wasn't quite as ridiculous. It still had some, gut to it.
So yeah, things had to change. There's a band you probably never heard of. They're called Taiketo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you've heard of Taiketo?
Great. I know one album is a great album, but it just wrong time.
Well, guess what day that came out? The exact same day, on the exact same level, the exact same record label as Nirvana, Nevermind. So that album came out on the same day, on the same label, which is Geffen. So they obviously, Nirvana was just like this phenomenon, and the poor guys never stood a chance.
Yeah, there's another band, and I can't remember the name of them. They're still out there touring. They had that song. I actually bought the cassette when it came out. Almost like a progressive rock band. Was that song "Pull Me Under" or something?
Dream Theater.
Dream Theater, yeah. I mean, I think they came out like at the very end of things where I think if they would have somehow been discovered and put out an album 5 years earlier, they could have become a super group because
They really went on a big, huge cult following after that. I actually got to see them a couple times live. They were great. Yeah, they're still around. They're still kicking it, still making albums, and yeah.
I had an opportunity to hang out with the drummer Mike when he was in. Yeah, he was an ass. I hate to say it. He was with that band Adrenaline Mob.
Yeah.
And we got on. A friend of mine was talking to him about some sort of thing. I can't remember what it had to do with some sort of. I can't remember. There was something about it with some multimedia thing. It had nothing really to do with the band itself, Adrenaline Mob. But he got him and my friend on the list, and they were playing here in Pittsburgh. And outside of my friend and I think there were only maybe 10 or 12 other people that went to see Adrenaline Mob, and they were phenomenal. They were fantastic. That guitar player, I think, what he played in Static X, he was amazing. I mean, because then he was playing some bluesy stuff they went into, and it was just his guitar sound. They were phenomenal. The singer kicked ass. It's kind of like a Ronnie James Dio with a little more rasp to him.
Right.
And I mean, they played in front of nobody. And we're talking to him afterwards outside, and Mike's just was it Potnoy, or I can't remember what his name is. He was just such an so yeah, arrogant. Like if he just played a stadium and they played in front of a dozen people, and I'm not exaggerating. There was maybe a dozen people at this place that held probably, I don't know, 800 people.
Yeah.
But they were good though, man. That was a really good band.
Yeah. Tough to admit, but he's one of the best drummers around now.
Oh, he's a great drummer. There's no doubt about that.
It's just a rumor. You can't confirm it, but I mean, he started playing drums because of Neil Peart from Rush. Matter of fact, their name Dream Theater came from a Rush song. So if Rush starts to play again, they have their eye on him as being the drummer. But we'll see.
I could see that.
All right. So how many was that? Three
That
down,
was number
right?
3.
All right. So we got 2 more to go. What's number 4?
This will be one that will probably surprise you, being that they only put out one album, The Sex Pistols.
Never mind the Bullocks.
That's one of my favorite albums of all time. I still listen to it on a regular basis. I've watched every documentary on them.
That's awesome.
I think it's, in my opinion, it is by far the best punk album out there because it's tight as hell. The sound quality on it, even to this day, it was recorded in the 70s. Go listen to it now, and it still has a modern sound, where back then, especially back then, punk albums sound like they were recorded with somebody's Radio Shack tape recorder.
I was just going to say that.
And it's just amazing how solid it is. I mean, the drumming is solid, the vocals, I mean, Johnny Rotten, I mean, just his voice on it, the guy could actually sing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's got and it's, the words are kind of humorous too.
Right.
And it's just, I just really love that album. Been always one of my favorites. I had it on an album twice. I've had it on cassette twice. I've had it on CD, and I have a CD somewhere, but I stream music now. So now and then I listen to it. I'll go out for a run and I'll turn it and I'll put it on. I'm like, man, I love that album.
Yeah, that's
I just
cool.
wish things didn't go the way they did, and they put out a couple more.
They self-imploded for sure.
I mean, they sold a lot. They made a lot of money off of that album.
Yeah,
I think it sold close to 15 million copies.
Something
today.
like that. Yeah.
You know, it is for a punk album, and I like the Ramones and some of that stuff too. But there's just something about it that even to this day, it just sounds.
That was, to me, I think, the first real punk album. I mean, yeah, the Ramones were out there and Iggy and the Stooges and stuff. I mean, I'm talking about the attitude and the sound and the fierceness of it. I mean, and they're British, with the safety pins in the nose and all that kind of scene. I mean, to me and to most people, that was like the first real hard punk album.
And Steve Jones never even looked punk.
No.
And nothing about him, even he'd be performing. He had like one of his high school band jackets on, that the marching band would use. But he was just, I mean, he got a lot better as a guitar player over the years.
Oh, yeah.
But when he started doing stuff, what was it with Andy Taylor, one of the Taylor brothers? He played on a couple of his albums. And I mean, he's a solid rhythm player. But even back then, I mean, for a punk band, I know everything about it. I mean, basically, we're making money getting dropped by record labels for doing stupid shit.
Yeah,
and they kept making money. They'd pay them to move on. Didn't know they were ever going to put out the album. And it's kind of hard. It is kind of weird to have one of your all-time favorite bands be a band that put out one album.
Well, one of mine is.
But they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, they're great. Did you like Johnny Rotten's PIL music at all?
Not really. Wasn't my thing, especially at that time. I would listen to it, or if there was a video, because I liked him from Johnny, the name Johnny Rotten, and I just so the guy is actually could sing. But now I don't know, he is such a mess. You ever see anything from him? He's like got to about here now, and it's he can't say. I don't know. Sometimes you listen to him in an interview, and it's like, what an intelligent, nice guy. And sometimes you listen to him, it's like, what the hell happened? He's just all over the place.
He is. He's definitely all over the place. Yeah, he did it though. That was the Sergeant Pepper of punk, like it or not. Love him or hate him. That's right. All right. Numero 5.
And I've been bouncing in my mind with 3. I'll tell you what 3 they are, but I'll tell you which one I'm going to pick right now. Leonard Skinner, Eric Church, because I'm a big Eric Church fan. Nice. But I'm going to have to go with my 3rd pick, and that's Black Sabbath.
That's Sabbath.
Black Sabbath.
Wow.
All Black Sabbath, including Ronnie James Dio Black Sabbath.
Right. Wow. That's cool, man. That's really cool.
I mean, there's just so many bands. Think of how many bands are tied into Black Sabbath or just Ozzy Osbourne. When you
Yeah.
think about it, how many bands have branched out to somebody who's either played in the band or played with Ozzy? I
Right.
mean, it's crazy. If
Right.
we sat here for a while, we could probably come up with 20 or 30
Oh,
bands
yeah.
out there just
Easy.
because of the talent that's ran through there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Don Cheese, you could tie Deep Purple to Black Sabbath. It came
Oh,
out.
yeah. And
I
then,
mean,
yeah.
there's just it's all over the place. Yeah, Black Sabbath to me, I'm gonna have to say, even maybe at times there's bands that I like better as of today, but when you put it all together, though, Black Sabbath is to me is they have to be in the top. They have to be in the top five. The influence, I listen to all those albums. I played along to them.
Yeah.
Hell, I even have a unique version of Paranoid that I play with my solo acoustic thing. And it goes over well, and it still sounds like Paranoid, but almost has a little, sort of backwoods on your porch kind of
Right. Oh, that's
feel
cool,
to it.
man.
And yeah, I mean, that just such a trendsetter. And the Ronnie James Dio stuff just
Yeah.
blows me away. He took Sabbath from being, sort of dark band and put them out in the forefront. And
Uh,
just Tony Iommi's guitar playing was great with Black Sabbath. But man, when Ronnie James Dio came into play, listen to like Lonely as a Word and stuff, and hear the stuff that he's playing. He
yeah.
didn't do any of that before, It was,
Right.
so yeah, there's such an influential band.
Yeah.
I have to put them in all time, put them in my top five anyhow, just because of all the other bands I've liked that have sort of moved on, and I got turned, onto those bands because of people, even Brad Gillis
Oh, yeah.
from Light Rain. Hell, if he would have stuck with Ozzy, I think there could have been some amazing music that came out.
Well, he had Night Ranger, though. And so that's the album that got me into Black Sabbath was Speak of the Devil, Ozzy's album. It was a contractual agreement, by the way. He to this day, him and Sharon disowned that album. But he had to put out one more album of Black Sabbath songs, and so they had to do it. But Randy just died, and so poor Brad Gillis had to learn these songs within about, 12, 13, 14 days or something.
Yeah, I know, it was some really short period of time.
Yeah, he
And
just
he
got
sounded
out.
great.
He sounded great.
The guitar sound was so much different than everybody else. I mean, look, I was a big Randy Rhoads fan.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't never really cared a lot for his guitar playing. I mean, I got to meet the guy a couple months before he played. I sat in a room here when he was in town. I was in high school. There was a music store, probably about maybe 40 minutes from here, about an hour from Pittsburgh. And they had a guitar seminar thing where there was 2 sessions where 15 people got to come in, sit and talk to Randy Rhoads for an hour and a half. And I just happened to I was already young and I was out playing. I was, I think, I would have been a junior in high school at that time.
Wow.
And this place that my mom was working at part-time, it was called the Brown Derby. I don't know if they're outside of Pittsburgh anymore, but there's none been here in Pennsylvania in
Right.
30 plus years.
Right.
But there was a guy playing in this, nightclub act. It was like a two-piece with pre-recorded music who worked at this music store, and he liked me, so he was able to get me in. So I was there with a bunch of older musicians and stuff. And so you go in, you sit down. There's about 15 of us. So my mom actually called the school. They get time off, the principal, for me to go because I'm meeting this guy, guitar player in a famous band. And so I'm with these older guys, and all it is us asking him questions, and he had a guitar sitting on his lap after maybe the first 30, 40 minutes, plugged into a Marshall, and he would play some of the stuff that he's playing. If you ask him, what are you doing here or that, and it was really cool. So I even got an opportunity to ask him a couple questions myself and have him answer. So I have his autograph. You weren't allowed to bring cameras, unfortunately. I would love to have a photo with him. I still have the brochure thing from Music World, it was called, the store. And it was just in the back of the music store. It was super cool. And unfortunately, he passed away. Maybe it was less than 2 months. It was near the end of, that whole accident. So, yeah, I just think of Ozzy and Black Sabbath. It just branches off into so many different.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. That's great, man. Yeah, they were it. They were the trailblazers. They started the whole thing.
I mean, it would have been great. What I always wish they would have done, not now, say 20 years ago. You know how some of those recordings sound like they were with a Radio Shack recorder, and they just, the sound quality wasn't that great even for that time. It would have been great like in the 80s, sometime in the late 80s, early 90s when the guitar sounds got nice and beefy. For those guys to be able to go back and record some of those old songs, with that modern technology, to be able to hear Sweet Leaf with a little more kick and not that sort of like foggy sound and stuff like that, because some of those were even on the same album. Sometimes the recording quality changed from one track to the other. They were done so. It's a shame they were done so cheaply.
Yeah.
And there's so much great music on those albums.
Mm-hmm. No, there were, but I think they did. I don't want to get quoted on this. I thought that they remastered a lot of those as best as they could.
Yeah, there's something. It gets it better, but there's just something like the guitar sound, the drum sound. Once you got into the 80s and you get that big drum sound, to hear that on some of those recordings, to hear those guys taking the sound of Tony Iommi's guitar with Ronnie James Dio and putting that back on his old Sabbath albums would be listening to War Pigs and stuff would be really
That's
cool.
True.
That'd be fantastic.
That's awesome. Sweet, man. Well, thank you for sharing me your 5 top favorite music acts of all time. Greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to your EP coming out, and keep rocking, man.
I try to keep doing it, man. You too. You got some great music here too. You have anything new coming out soon? I mean, you just put out stuff recently.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. We're in the process of marketing. We just started a record label a couple weeks ago, and so we're gonna promote everything like crazy and I might take all the singles down and start re-releasing them one at a time until the album comes out, and just different things, but we're still in the genesis of it, but it's coming. So
I mean, my good friend Mike Cadry, who I was this sort of sidekick for this Blabberbrains podcast that he was doing for a while, and he was a musician too. I met him played bass for me years ago, and we lived together down in Florida. We were selling pools down there. I go and visit with him, his dad in Florida every year to watch the Super Bowl, and I turn him on to the stuff that you're putting out. And you're tickling his itch, because he likes a lot of it. I mean, he's started getting a lot of the faith-based music over the years, that's heavy, but he still loves that sort of, I don't want to, rock that has a nice, that nice upper vocal range that you have that isn't falsetto and it's just true singing. And he's like, man, this is my type of music, because he loves a lot of stuff like, even like Kansas and Styx or, Def Leppard, Rushnet, but you have that sound that sort of, you blend into that, but it's still not quite that, but it's got, it's very easy to listen to and kind of, I bob my head to and get and you could sing. A lot of people in our age group can't freaking sing anymore. At least, I have people that just struggle to sing, and I play out and some of the things I sing, and people are like, "How the hell are you still doing that at your age?" I never fried it, and that's what I think with you. Some of the stuff I'm hearing you sing, I'm like, "Geez, oh man." There's not a lot of people, that are 25 who could hit that stuff.
Oh man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for talking to us today, and catch you next time around.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. It was nice finally meeting you.
Yeah, you too, man.
I'll talk with you soon.
Made in the USA.